Get ready to uncover truths and reality of today's politics. Here's your host, Lori Mills.
Welcome back to a special edition of Uncover California. I'm Lori Mills, your host. You know, boy, what a week. 10 days ago, President Trump was almost assassinated, and Joe Biden said he wasn't going to drop out of the race. Now he has, and now we have Kamala Harris. Remember, Kamala Harris was our border czar, and she's just been an epic failure. So today, on today's show, we've got a really special guest that I've been trying to get into here for a long time. Unfortunately, she was fighting behind the scenes to save children that have disappeared under this administration. I'm going to play a little bit of her testimony for you, and then we'll bring her in.
My goal is to inspire action to safeguard the lives of migrant children, including the staggering 85,000 that are missing. Today, children will work overnight shifts at slaughterhouses, factories, restaurants to pay their debts to smugglers and traffickers. Today, children will be sold for sex. I knew nothing about their suffering until 2021 when I volunteered to help the Biden administration with the crisis at the southern border. As part of Operation Artemis, I was deployed to the Pomona Fairplex Emergency Intake Site in California to help HHS, Office of Refugee Resettlement, reunite children with sponsors in the United States. I thought I was going to help place children in loving homes. Instead, I discovered that children are being trafficked through a sophisticated network that begins with recruiting in home country, smuggling to the U.S. border, and ends when ORR delivers a child to a sponsor. Some sponsors are criminals and traffickers and members of transnational criminal organizations. Some sponsors view children as commodities and assets to be used for earning income. This is why we are witnessing an explosion of labor trafficking. It could be argued that the United States government has become the middleman in a large-scale, multi-billion-dollar child trafficking operation that is run by bad actors seeking to profit off of the lives of children.
Wow. You know, guys, they talk about kids in cages with Trump. That Obama built, by the way, these kids were safe. Joe Biden stopped DNA testing at the border. And it's my privilege and honor to welcome whistleblower Tara Rodas to our show. Tara, thank you so much for coming in.
Lori, thank you so much for having me so that we can actually have a conversation about what we now know is government-sponsored, taxpayer-funded child trafficking.
It's mind-blowing to me. You know, Pomona is probably 2 hours from here. You went there. Tell us how you ended up at the Pomona Fairplex and how you discovered the trafficking that was going on.
Sure. So many of your viewers and listeners may know that at the beginning of 2021, at the beginning of this administration, they knew they had a crisis at the southern border. And they made what's called an all call to federal agents and employees. So all federal agencies, they said, we want you to donate your employees to help us with the crisis at the southern border. And so when that announcement went out, today, I think it's important I make one disclosure here. I'm not speaking on behalf of the federal government or on behalf of my agency. I'm speaking on behalf of my experience at HHS. So I was sitting at my agency. I've been a federal employee for more than 20 years. Most of which has been in the Inspector General community. And I said, here I am, send me. If there are kids who need to be reunited with their families into loving homes, I'm going to do that mission. And so I deployed in May of 2021. I saw the announcement in March, applied, was chosen, selected, first deployed to Texas, and then ended up at the Pomona Fairplex. That was my final deployment location. And I got on the ground at the end of May of 2021, thinking that I was going to be coloring, doing puzzles, playing games with children until we gave them to their parents. And that's not what was happening at all. It didn't take very long, switched over to case management, and it didn't take very long seeing children in crisis, children who couldn't tell the same story as their supposed sponsor, sponsors whose identification didn't match with paperwork that they were sending in, to realize that something nefarious was going on. And it only took less than 2 weeks in case management to find the first case, along with one of my other partners and whistleblowers, and one is in California, as a matter of fact. There's been 3 of us from the Pomona Fairplex who've come forward publicly. More have come forward behind the scenes to give information in their testimony. But the 3 of us have come forward to say that children were being lured. Trafficking is force, fraud, or coercion. They're being lured by bad actors here in the United States to come to this country to make the journey. They're being abused along the route. It's horrible. Some of the children never even make it. They die en route because of what people do to them. Then once they're here in the custody of the government, you may have seen in the AP story last week that one of the largest providers of care, Southwest Key Programs, DOJ, now has indictments against people for raping children as young as 5. And
It's just
so they're abused
heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. It is just unthinkable what people do to toddlers. I just think most people just don't know. And then we hand them over. The US government hands them over to a person we've never seen in person, to a home we've never seen. And the goal was move these kids in 10 to 14 days. So in less than 6 months, the Pomona Fairplex in California processed over 8,300 children. So more than 8,000 children in less than 6 months, dispersed them all over the country to many unknown backgrounded people, because most of the sponsors have no legal presence here in the United States. And we're giving them children. We're giving these people children. Some of them are sponsoring multiple children. They have criminal backgrounds. Some are gang members. And yeah, that's what I reported, which ultimately got me threatened with investigation, walked off my job. It's called the perp walk, when they do it midday in front of your peers, to not just scare you, but also to scare everyone around you from ever coming forward. So yeah, they took my badge. It's been an interesting journey.
Well, what's so interesting about that, Adam Schiff said all whistleblowers must be protected, and that only seems to fall on their whistleblowers. It seems that they destroy you. And even with certain, people that have been arrested for January 6th, they use the full force of the government to come after you. And that is communism. That is communism. And with what you're dealing with here, I know that Joe Biden and them were really pushing the Senate bill when we had HR 2 that's still sitting on Schumer's desk for over a year, collecting dust to secure the border. And they wanted to fund these NGOs that are taking people through the Darien Gap, which, according to Oscar Blue, there's multiple dead bodies. He has seen little girls face to face that will tell him, I was just raped. And people need to understand that these kids are in danger. These migrants are in danger. And we are basically profiting. Our government is profiting after the misery and suffering of children and migrants to make money. This is a multi-billion-dollar business, isn't it, Tara?
It is a multi-billion-dollar business. And that's what people need to understand. And I have to say, I had no idea when I mobilized for what I believed was a humanitarian issue, right? Proverbs 31 says, be a voice for the voiceless, right? Help those in need. And right. I said, I'm going to do that. And it was a terrible thing to realize I was on the wrong side, because people are profiting off of the lives of children and the misery of adults who are crossing. And the Pomona Fairplex in California, the contract was a 6-month contract. And anybody can look this up on usaspending.gov. I encourage people, see where your money's going, right? And this is just one small program called the Unaccompanied Children Program, small program. Our site was earned, the contractor, $700 million for 6 months. That means we're paying a contractor over $100 million a month, $100 million a month to deliver children to criminals. We have to say, what is the mission of these programs, right? And I thought the mission was we're giving children to their parents, and that's not what's happening. Nobody claims that most of these children are going to their parents. Not even anyone who would be considered on the other side of the issue believes that. They're not. Now, there was a point in time, maybe 10, 12 years ago, where a majority of the children were going to their parents, but that's not the case now. And there's been trafficking in the program for a decade. So there's evidence to show children are suffering because of this program. We're not taking them out of suffering. When children are being raped, some to death, then we need to say, what are we doing as a country to contribute to that misery? And it needs to stop, and it needs to stop fast, because bad actors have taken over this program. And I think it's really important that people understand this government program, they've lost control of it because there's too many bad actors. We have MS-13. We have known gang members, 18th Street Gang, other crime syndicates who are sponsoring the children. They're using it as a way to bring to them, it's their assets, right? You can sell cocaine one time. They sell these children over and over and over again, day after day, week after week. These children are raped or forced to work. And this is something that most people just don't realize is happening. I didn't know it was happening. But now that I know, I will not be silent until we rescue these children. The government admitted that in just 2021 and 2022, in just a 2-year time frame, they lost contact with 85,000 children. How is that possible when we're spending billions of dollars? How is that even remotely conceivable? 85,000 children gone.
And that was a year ago that 85,000
Yes.
children were missing. And
Yes.
I think it was about a year ago as well where Joe Biden and Kamala Harris stopped DNA testing at the border, which President Trump had implemented. And our border numbers were down, which with all this money involved, you know, they say money's the root of all evil. Well, if you can stand by and fund these NGOs and programs that pretend to be Christian, and they're passing these children off to gang members, bringing them through a dangerous journey, which most of them and a lot of them don't survive, don't DNA test who's bringing them into the country, bring them to processing center, not vet the sponsors, and just give children over to these sponsors to be trafficked and abused or killed more. That is not a godly mission. It is not a godly mission. And Tara, when you were at this processing center, I think I do remember you stating that you were doing a little bit of data research and you had noticed that there were multiple children going to one address. How did that come about?
Yes. So Deborah White, who is one of the other whistleblowers and is also a Fed, when we testified, a Fed, that's a federal employee. Sorry if I use acronyms, but
Not the bad
Deborah
Fed.
and I testified. We testified on the 9th in front of the Senate roundtable with Senator Grassley, Senator Johnson, Senator Cassidy. And we really want to thank all of them for their efforts because they've led a 9-month investigation to look into all of these claims, and they released a lot of the documents. So many people may have seen that on the 11th of this month, they released a whole trove of documents to prove MS-13 gang affiliation of sponsors where we had said, do not release, and they sent them anyway. And then showing that multiple children were going to multiple locations. And there were people were providing false records, all kinds of things. So we discovered it only because there were 2 case managers, and one of the case managers had a 17-year-old girl from Guatemala, and the other case manager had a 15-year-old boy from Guatemala, and they were brother and sister. And these 2 case managers could not identify where the children were actually going to be going because the sponsor kept giving different information. So she would send an ID that had one address, the paperwork said another address. Then she sent an ID of a supposed household member that was at another address. And that's when we learned how to use the system. And we became experts at their database. And it was very simple to then see, wait a second, this household member, he has sponsored kids at 6 other addresses. And at those 6 addresses, there are sponsors who have then sponsored at that same address with him and then other addresses. And so we began to see that there were very sophisticated networks that were getting the children. And then as soon as those children would turn 18, they would then use those children to sponsor others. So it really is a criminal enterprise. And it's shocking. That's all I can say. It's shocking and stunning that the administration has rolled back so many protections for the children that it's a free-for-all with transnational criminal organizations. It's unthinkable, really. It's a total dereliction of duty. This, in my entire federal career, I've never seen such corruption. I've never seen such injustices against children. This is absolutely, every taxpayer should be appalled that they are paying taxes that are resulting in the rape, murder, abuse, and trafficking of children. And that's a terrible thing to say. I can't even believe myself that it's true. I wish it wasn't true. I wish I never knew any of these things. There are days. Yeah, that I wish I
don't know how you don't have nightmares every night, just hearing about this, and even listening to you in the testimony last year. It's great that Senator Grassley has done these reports. Someone in our government is allowing this to happen, and they're not stopping it. Why will they not shut it down? And again, for you people, if you vote for Kamala Harris, you're voting for the trafficking of children. She's the border czar. She's allowed this. Why are people not being held accountable? And why are they still trying to give money to these NGOs?
Well, I think that the Department of Health and Human Services, which is the ultimate runner of this program. So under the Department of Health and Human Services, you have the Office of Refugee Resettlement, and that's who we were working for over the Unaccompanied Children program. So I think that so many people believe that this is a humanitarian thing. They have painted this as, this is good for children, right? This is helping children. This is reuniting children with their families. They're selling a narrative that is completely false. They're selling a narrative that I myself believed, right? I remember seeing the announcement and being, oh my goodness, what an incredible program to support. I left the Washington, D.C. area to it's amazing when I look back on it now, to go to Dallas, Texas, to be trained. We got trained on how to use an N95 mask. Remember, this is the height of COVID. So this is 2021. We get trained on how to use a N95 mask. We go through another background check, even though we were all cleared, right? Because they want to check recent to make sure you haven't done anything since your last background check that would be harm against children, right? And then we're just sent off. We had no idea when we left home and stepped on the staging center in Texas where we were going to go. I mean, I had no idea. So it's pretty, looking back now, I just can't even believe. It's just like God put it on my heart. He's like, this is what I'm calling you to do. And I thought I was being called to help these kids and play puzzles. It probably be important for your listeners to know. My husband is from El Salvador, so I'm a Spanish speaker, and they wanted Spanish speakers. So I've traveled in Mexico, El Salvador, and Guatemala. Most of the children come from Guatemala. And so I figured, I'm going to be able to talk to them and play games with them and ask them about their new life and dreams here in the US. I thought I could be a great help being a Spanish speaker. And again, it's just, I had no idea what was really happening. So the narrative is, you are doing the Christian thing. You were doing the loving thing. This is an incredible thing that the United States is involved in, when in fact, this is the most horrible, horrible injustices against children. Really, really. So, Lori, I don't know what the closest high school is to you right now, but if I use a high school close to me, if I say Springfield High School, I know that today, if a school bus containing 23 children left Springfield High School and had not delivered the children in like the 23 minutes that they were all supposed to be home, like parents are going to start calling the school like, hey, where's my
Right.
child? And suddenly it's going to be multiple parents are calling the school. Where's my child? Where's my child? They're going to realize that the bus is gone. Like 23 kids on a school bus are gone. They're going to be calling the police, local police. They're going to be calling FBI. They are going to be calling everybody. Within an hour, this is going to be local news. Law enforcement's going to be on site. Within a few hours, this is going to be national news. Like you're going to hear in California that a school in Virginia, a school bus left with 23 kids and the 23 kids are gone. Where are they? There's going to be helicopters. There's going to be SWAT. There's going to be everything. This is what I know will happen. In about 6 hours, this is going to be international news. 23 kids on a school bus in the United States are missing. How is it that 85,000 children are gone? And no one's saying anything. How is that possible?
And how is it that our government still wants to fund these programs knowing this information? How is it that, when Donald Trump was in office and they were all screaming about kids in cages and family separation, well, how do you know that it's their families? Yes. I remember back then I was watching a CNN report and it seemed really bad to me. Back then when they were saying, oh, and here this family's being reunited, and it was at an airport. And the guy had a little girl by the hand and there was a little boy and he didn't want to go with them. And I said right then and there, that's not his dad. That's not his dad. And you talked about the refugee resettlement program. I've done a little research on that as well. And the problem with that, not only are they trafficking children, they're shipping military-aged men into our country. So there's none of this that is good. I don't understand. I mean, it's great that Senator Grassley, what they're doing, is, doing these reports, but it needs to go further. We need to find the kids. I saw Anthony, who goes by Muckraker on Twitter
Anthony
or X.
Rubin. He's a hero.
Yes, fantastic. And he started following up on the addresses to where these kids are supposed to go. And he came upon a house and it was empty, a vacant house. Nobody was there. Tara, how do we find these kids? What is Senator Grassley and the other representatives going to do to find these children? Are they just lost forever?
Okay, so that is a great question. So the reason Senator Grassley held the roundtable was to, one, get the information out to the public, because the public doesn't know. I mean,
Right.
Most people just simply do not know. They have no idea.
And this should be a headline on every news station.
Yes. But regular news just will not carry it. They just
doesn't
won't,
go with the
which is
narrative.
very sad. Yeah, very sad. So goal number one was to get the information out there, and not only get the information, but then show the evidence. So as I said, on the 11th, anybody can go to Grassley's press releases, his website. You can download, it was on the 11th. So on the 11th of this month, he actually dropped evidence showing the fraud schemes. And it was 84 pages of documents that he recovered from people. And this also is the criminal referral that he sent to FBI and Homeland Security investigations. So he has been, over these last 9 months, making efforts to find children, because he made criminal referrals, as well as figure out what's wrong with this program. How do we fix it? So the challenge is, most people can't be an expert in everything. You just can't, right? So a lot of people, a lot of legislators even, don't understand exactly how the program works. So HHS has gotten away for years by saying, we are finding sponsors for children. And see, people believe that.
Mm-hmm.
So what they don't really understand is that when a child presents themselves at the border to our fine border agents, God bless their hearts, because what
Totally.
they've gone through has just been terrible. So our border agents take the children into the custody of Department of Homeland Security. So they first are in the custody of DHS, but DHS has to turn them over to HHS within 3 days. But one of the things DHS does at the border is they take down what's called the U.S. point of contact. So I don't know if your viewers have seen pictures of these children, these small children, and they have pieces of paper. And on these pieces of paper are a phone number and an address. Sometimes it's pinned to their clothes. Sometimes they have a phone number sharpied on their arm, written inside their clothes. Children who can't even speak because they're so small. A lot of people don't realize there's a Walmart, a repurposed Walmart in Texas that has nothing but infants. Okay. So people need to think about what's really happening here. Why does the US government have a Walmart full of infants? That doesn't make sense. So anyway, at the Border Patrol, they give this US point of contact. Well, when the Department of Homeland Security turns that child over to us at HHS, they give us the US point of contact. All we're doing at HHS is picking up the phone to the US point of contact, who we are viewing as the sponsor, and saying, hey, you expecting a kid? Okay, let's trade some paperwork. We never see that sponsor face to face. We don't see them, not even in a video call. We simply hear their voice on the phone, and we ask them to take a photo of their documents and send that to us via WhatsApp, which is ridiculous. So HHS is not a law enforcement agency. They do not have investigative authority. So anybody who tries to say they're vetting sponsors, that's ridiculous. Because they can't.
And then they don't follow up to see
Right.
where the kids are. I mean, if I become a foster parent,
obligation.
I believe I'm going to get a visit at least once a month from somebody. Yet these kids have just been thrown into the universe with no accountability, nobody following up with where they are. It's heartbreaking. You guys have to be loud about this. You can't pretend that it's not happening. It's up to every single one of us to stand up for these children. Tara, where can people go to find more information on what can people do to help?
Okay, so if they go to americasfuture.net, what Senator Grassley is doing is it's a bipartisan coalition. They have 45 senators right now who are going to stop the rule change that HHS just implemented on the 1st of July, 1st of this month. They put in new
Explain
rules.
that rule change. What is the rule change?
Yeah, so they are making it easier to traffic the children. Yes, they have made a new position called a unification specialist. They're codifying all the things that they've been doing wrong. Like, for example, if you're going to be sponsoring a child, we're not supposed to do any investigative questions. Our goal is to reunite the child to you, not to investigate you. So we don't ask you, so Lori, how many other children have you sponsored in the past? Lori, oh, so you've sponsored 8 other children? Okay, Lori. So we're not even supposed to ask that.
And where are the kids now?
Exactly.
How are they doing? We want to come and do a wellness check.
Exactly. Their wellness check consists of a 30-day phone call by someone who's not the case manager, by someone who's never spoken to the child. And it doesn't even make sense. And of course, no one's answering the phone. And they're trying to say, well, that doesn't mean the child is gone. Well, it does mean that you've lost contact with them. And so it's really sad. So at americasfuture.net, what Senator Grassley is using what's called the Congressional Review Act, the CRA. He's entered a resolution to strike down their rule change, which is making it easier to traffic the children, and putting the power back to Congress to make rules that will be sensible and sane for the protection of children. So we're asking people, we have a campaign, it's called Vote Yay, because that means, in Congress they vote yay or nay. So vote yay on the CRA. And all we're asking people to do is if they go to americasfuture.net, they're going to see right there on the splash page, it's called Stop the Shame Campaign, because this is shameful that the United States government is trafficking children. And children are dying as a result of this. And children are being abused in unspeakable ways. And so it's pure evil. It is. I've never been that close to darkness. And it's opened my eyes.
And even with what we're seeing across the spectrum, the corruption that's been in our government is just unfathomable. But this is the darkest, most evil thing that's happening today because these children are innocent and they're victims of these monsters. Tara, let everybody know where they can find you. And I hope you'll come back again and update us. And again, I do want people to get involved and give the website one more time where they can go.
Sure. It's americasfuture.net. And all we're asking people to do is make 3 phone calls. And on the little interactive map, you click on your state. It shows you who your senators are. You put in your zip code. It gives you your representatives along with the phone numbers. And we're just saying, call your senators and your representative to say vote yay on the CRA. Yeah. So americasfuture.net. And then if they want to follow updates, they can follow America's Future, their handle on Twitter. And I'm on Twitter at just Tara Rodas at X.
On X, yes. I follow you. I have you on notifications. I'm so proud of the work that you're doing. I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing. I pray God's protection on you because, again, this is evil. You are standing up against evil. And the fact that you've gotten pushback for exposing this is disgusting. I appreciate you. I love you. I'll be praying for you daily. And thank you so much for coming on today, Tara.
Yes. And Lori, thank you so much for having me. And if your listeners would pray for us, and please pray for the children.
Pray for the kids.
Yeah, pray for the kids because if we don't come for them, nobody's coming for them.
And someday we will be held accountable for staying silent on something like this. I believe in the Lord. And I tell you what, I don't think the Lord will look favorably on all of us if we don't stand up for these kids. So we're all called to fight this. So it's easy. Go online and vote yay on the CRA. Thanks so much, Tara. I appreciate you so much.
Thanks, Lori. I appreciate you too. God bless.
God bless. Okay, everybody, stay tuned. Assemblymember Bill Essayli will be on next, and we're going to be discussing the new law that Gavin Newsom just signed, Assembly Bill 1955, where now they can transition your children without your knowledge, because that's the state we live in. Time to take it back, guys. Time to take it back. Raise a glass to our new sponsor, Republican Red Wine. It's the perfect choice for patriotism, and it's really good to drink. With bottles like Drain the Swamp, 45-47, you'll be the biggest hit at your next Republican party. You know what? It also makes a great conversation piece at the dinner table. To receive 15% off, use promo code CALI, CALI, when you go to Republican Red Wine to purchase your new wine bottles.
Welcome to the MAGA Mall. We have the largest selection of the finest quality MAGA caps and Trump caps that are made. We have over 250 hats and 1,000 different products in 28 product categories. All the caps are made from premium cotton twill. Everything on them is embroidered. As a matter of fact, in the last election cycle, we donated over 45,000 caps to Trump-endorsed candidates and conservative causes all the way across America. And you can buy any of our products by going to our website. It's at themagamall.com, like on the sign over here, and use promo code CALI, and that's for Uncover California. That will get you a 10% discount off of all of our products and also help this worthy cause. And remember, it's always a MAGA day at the MAGA Mall.
Welcome back. I'm super excited to have our next guest on, Bill Essayli from Assembly District 63. You know what? The supermajority in Sacramento is destroying our state. And we need people that are going to stand up no matter the cost to fight these people. And again, you guys, it's so important you start focusing on these assembly races and state senate races, because people like him, even though I think if he could, can't do this alone. Bill, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
I was watching some video of you. As you know, Gavin Newsom just passed Assembly Bill 1955 into law that basically takes parental rights. Mm-hmm. Your schools no longer have to tell you if they're transitioning your child. You really fought this. Tell everybody about it, because Gavin's saying that's not what it does.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to back up a little bit so you can understand the full context of this and where this came from. And so this is my first term in the legislature. I was elected in 2022. And back then it was just starting to come out. I think, you were saying about how during COVID, a lot of parents learned about what was happening in the schools. So one of the things the parents learned is that they're teaching this gender ideology nonsense to really small kids, and telling them, there's a million genders they can pick from, and then if you choose to change your gender, we have a whole support plan and we'll guide you through the whole process. So what we found out is that schools were doing this without telling the parents they were transitioning these kids at school. And we said, where did this come from? Who authorized this? Because I remember when I was in school, you can watch a Disney movie without without a permission slip.
A signature.
Parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't get an aspirin. You can't watch a Disney movie. You can't go on a field trip. You can't do anything. So we looked into it, and what we learned was really stunning. The Department of Education for the state of California under Tony Thurmond issued a memo or guidance to every school district, and it said that children have a right to privacy from their parents, and that you're not to disclose their personal records without the child's permission, which is not the law. That is not the state of law. Children do not have a privacy interest from their parents. They're minors. They need their parents to consent to anything. So they just said, oh, it's our interpretation of the Constitution that kids have this right to privacy. So based on that, schools were intimidated into passing these regulations that basically enshrined secrecy. So they did it. So this is how the left works. They did it without a debate. They did it without a vote. They did it without a bill or a law. They just did it. This is what they do. They just do things. So we called them out on it. Some parents filed some lawsuits on this, which a couple of them were very successful in challenging this. And then that's what inspired me to introduce my bill last year, AB 1314. If you recall, I wanted to call this policy out publicly and just say, look, it should be the opposite. You should have to notify the parents. So I wrote a very simple bill. It didn't stop anything or do anything. All it did is just said, if the child seeks to transition their gender at school, you have to tell the parents within 3 days. That's it. That's the only thing it said. And the left, they lost their mind. They said this is like Florida, DeSantis, crazy attack on LGBTs. And so, you know what, Bill Essayli, you're so dangerous. Your bill is so dangerous. We're not even going to give it a hearing. So they refused to set my bill for a hearing. We didn't get any hearing, and it just died for lack of any movement, any committee vote, anything. So Republicans are used to losing up in Sacramento, and that's not how I roll. So I was like, you know what? They can shut me up in Sacramento, but I don't think they can shut me up, at the local level. So what I did is I started working with a coalition of groups and some conservative school board members that had just gotten elected in the last cycle. And we said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go on offense. We're going to go to the local school boards and we're going to pass the parental notification policy, my bill, AB 1314. We're going to pass it at a local level. And that's what we started doing. Chino Valley Unified was the first. Then we had Marietta, Temecula. We had some schools up north. And so we had a bunch of schools, I think about a dozen school districts passed an affirmative parental notification policy on this issue. So initially what they did is if you can believe this, the state took the school districts to court. So Rob Bonta, the Attorney General of the state of California, using taxpayer dollars, sued school districts to nullify a parental notification policy. I mean, this is insanity. This is what he's doing. And so we went to court, and you know what? We survived court. Every court that considered the issue upheld the policy. They allowed them to go through in one version of another. And so they lost in court. So there's a very powerful group of Democrats up in Sacramento. They're in the LGBT caucus, and they have quite a number of members in that caucus up there, and they were very pissed off about this. So they wrote this bill, AB 1955, and it basically what it does is it invalidates all these local school board policies, and it also makes it clear in law that a teacher cannot be forced to disclose this information to parents. So basically it allows teachers to teach this stuff, to indoctrinate the kids, to brainwash them, and then to keep it secret from parents. That's what AB 1955 is, but you have to understand the bigger context and where it came from. I mean, this was in response to what we did. And so in that sense,
freshman.
I actually think it's been a success because we've exposed their radical agenda. And now it's national news. I think we single-handedly ended Newsom's presidential bid. I mean, by signing that, I think you can't run for president of the state of the United States by having policies that are hostile to parents, and that's not going to fly.
Right. Well, I don't know if you saw I think it was yesterday, it came out that Elon Musk, he said he's pulling SpaceX and everything out of California over this bill. Little did we know that his son had his gender changed, and Elon felt that he was fooled, just like so many of these poor kids are, like Chloe Cole, whose parents were told if you don't change her sex, she's going to commit suicide. And now we've got a kid who's sterilized for the rest of her life with a double mastectomy that now realized that she made it a huge mistake. We don't let our kids have a tattoo before 18. I don't have a problem with these LGBT people that want to live their life after 18. If you want to do these things after 18, it's one thing, but to make medical decisions that the parents are paying for without the parents' knowledge is absolutely criminal. So Gavin says that 1955 doesn't say what you say it's doing. What do you say to him?
I actually responded. He had his press person write this big post on Twitter that it actually supports parents and kids in some bizarre way. So I took that on head on. I responded to him and I said, no, it's very clear. It enshrines parental secrecy. It enshrines the practice of teachers keeping secrets from parents. And I don't think that's acceptable under any circumstances. It doesn't matter how you try to justify it. They're trying to say that this is the best thing to keep kids safe. And I say, keep them safe from what? So the underlying this whole narrative is this assumption that parents are somehow a danger to their own kids. This is, and this is the whole narrative. It's like, well, not all parents are supportive. And so because some parents may not be supportive, we can't tell any parent. I mean, this is ridiculous. So, but you know what? I don't have to argue with Newsom. We're going to court on this. So this is going to be challenged in court. And I'm pretty confident that once it gets up to the appropriate level, the courts will reaffirm that parents have a right to raise their kids without the interference of the government, and the school doesn't have any authority, any permissions to withhold information from parents whatsoever.
Well, and I want to take it a little bit deeper than that. What people need to realize is this is a form of cultural Marxism. We have seen this in societies in the past. Mao did it with the kids. Stalin did it with the kids. Lenin did it with the kids, where they separate the children from their parents. And by the schools are, woke teachers telling kids that, your parents aren't safe for you and the kids belong to the state, not the parent. We've got a big problem here. So I applaud you, sir, for standing up for this and let people know what they can do to help spread the word, help fund you, or do whatever we can do to keep your seat, because I have a feeling they're going to be targeting you. And how important it is to grow the Republican leadership in the Assembly and Senate, because I think a lot of times people overlook these seats and they focus on the national seats, when if we could get balance back in the state Assembly and Senate, we could have sanity again. They would have to debate. They wouldn't be able to just push their woke-topian policies through and pretend they're not what they are.
Right.
So what say you?
Yeah, and we don't even need the majority. We just need to break the superminority in California. If we pick up 9 assembly seats out of 80, it's not really that insurmountable. We could have a big change in California very quickly. So I'd say this. I ran for office because I was just flabbergasted and shocked with the state of affairs in California politics. And I look up in Sacramento, I'm like, who are these people running the place? And you should take a look. Go look at the members and look at their resumes. A lot of them are just professional politicians, or they're like political staffers who just rose to their boss's seat. You don't have any serious people in there. And the Democrats, they're okay with a few Republicans as long as you're the right kind of Republican. They want us to shut up and sit down and not say a lot. Well, that's not me. So, I am not going to shut up and sit down. My job is there to represent the 500,000 Californians who sent me there. So I would say if you're listening and you're interested in this battle, first thing you can do is just follow us on social media so you know what's happening. We put a lot of content on our socials, and you can follow us at Bill Essayli. Essayli is Essayli. And we show you firsthand. We take video from the floor. We take video from committees. And we put them up just so you could see what's going on. But you're absolutely right. Now they're coming for me because they want to make an example out of me. They know I'm not going to change who I am, but they want to make an example out of me. They kicked me off my committees. They killed all my bills I proposed. They cut off all the funding for my district. They've cut off my fundraising. And it's all to show the other Republicans to say, you better stay in line. If you don't stay in line, what's
so much for democracy.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. They're the enemies of democracy. So if you don't stay in line, what's happening to Bill is going to happen to you. And be honest with you, it works on a lot of them. So what we have to show is like, no, this model does work. If you speak the truth and you stand on the side of righteousness and you fight for the people that elected you, you can have a successful future and career in Sacramento. So for that, I would just ask people to go to our website. We just got a new one. It's called fightsacramento.com. And you can sign up for our newsletter and you can support us there. And so, I rely on the support of everyday Californians, like everyone listening, and rather than, the big corporatist or the special interest up in Sacramento.
And you're running again, correct? Yeah,
so I'm up for re-election this November. So the assembly, we run every 2 years. I'm just finishing my first term, and they are, they do not want me back. Let's just say that.
Well, I'm assuming you've got Planned Parenthood and the rest of the corporate donor class up there pouring money into your opponent's campaign. Where can people donate to your campaign?
Yeah, our campaign website. That's the one I just mentioned, fightsacramento.com.
That's a great website.
Yeah, we got that website. Well, my name's a little difficult to spell, so we're like, we better get something else. So you can go to assayliforassembly.com or just type in fightsacramento.com and you'll get to the same place.
Okay, so with your social media, are you saying that Instagram, for instance, is that the best place for people to follow you?
We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on Twitter, so you can follow us on your favorite platform. Yes, X.
Yes. So anyways, an audience, you need to know, you need to support this man. We need people that are going to stand up. We do not need yes men in Sacramento. Our state has gone down the tube. As a native Californian, Santa Monica now one of the most deadly cities in our state. I went up to our Sacramento, beautiful capital, and was greeted by a naked man with a woman on a leash. That is not the way this state should be run. They are epic failures. We've got great people running. This man who I really wanted on, Bill, you have to support him. We've got Patrick Gibson, who's new, running. He can take that seat. We've got Ted Nordblum. You guys, that's a winnable seat. These guys need your support. They're running against the lobbyists. They're running against the corporations. Focus on these seats. Let's take back our state. And Bill, thank you so much for coming on today. If you ever have anything you want to break, give me a call, send me an email. We'll have you back. But we've got your back here on Uncover California, and we'll be pushing this video out to a lot of people.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'll see you soon.
Okay. All right.
All right,
Thank
take
you.
care.
Bye.
Bye.